Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I think we can call this meeting of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission to order. It's Tuesday, November 16th. Could we have a roll call? Barb, can you hear us? We can't hear you. She's still muted. Barb, can you unmute?
Okay.
Oh, there you
Okay,
are.
finally, Bill. I am so sorry. I was all set to go and then life happened. Give me just 1 second here and I'll get ready to go.
I am here now, but I can't hear you very well. I'm working on my volume and I'm going to turn my face off. Oh, maybe it is off.
We can hear you pretty good, Nancy.
Okay.
You don't mind, just give me 1 second. I have my paper with the roll on it, which is mixed in with a lot of other papers. We had an exceptionally large number of papers this time. Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you for your patience. Bill Brown.
Here.
Annie Adams.
Here.
Shannon Baranek.
Here.
Kara Dudek.
Here.
Cynthia Hoyle.
Here.
Audrey Ishii.
Here.
Susan Jones.
Present.
Jeff Marino.
Here.
Sartak Prasad.
Here.
Nancy Westcott.
Here.
I got Nancy Westcott. Is there anybody else who's in attendance?
Let's see. Bridget Brohan, Kat Trotter, and then Reverend Dr. Evelyn Underwood, David Huber, Thomas Valencia. Somebody else just dropped off.
That was John Zeman, the city engineer. He was gonna observe tonight, but he warned me his computer is not great. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's why I didn't let him in, because I didn't think he would be sticking around the whole time.
Okay, well, maybe he'll pop in later. Okay, so we have a quorum. Thank you. Next is addition to the agenda. Are there any additions? Cynthia?
Yes, I sent everybody a description for the internship for a student to help us with reviewing our bike plan. And so if we want to chat about that briefly under old business, that'd be great. I just wanted to get your input before I send it off to the Department of Urban and Regional Planning.
Okay, I think we have time for that. Any objections to that? Barb, do you know if we need to approve that?
You do,
Okay,
obviously as amended.
okay. Could we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Moved by Sue. Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Annie. And could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown.
Yes.
Annie Adams.
Yes.
Shannon Baranek.
Yes.
Kara Dudek.
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle.
Yes.
Audrey Ishii.
Yes.
Susan Jones.
Yes.
Jeff Marino.
Yes.
Sartak Prasad.
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
that motion was approved.
Sorry, I was muted. Next is approval of the minutes from October. Are there any corrections? No corrections. Okay. Oh, Cynthia, you're muted.
There we go. Too many buttons to press. I had one small correction. I sent this to Barb, line 23. And I recommended working with the Regional and Urban Planning Program. And I don't know if I said the University of Illinois, but it wasn't the Regional Planning Commission. I was going to send it to the planning program. But I think I wasn't very articulate when I said that at the meeting.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
I move to accept the minutes as corrected.
Moved by Sue, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Audrey. Could we have a roll call for that one?
Bill Brown,
Yes.
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Shannon Baranik,
Yes.
Kara Dudek,
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle,
Yes.
Audrey Ishii,
Yes.
Susan Jones,
Yes.
Jeff Marino,
Yes.
Sartak Prasad,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
that minutes were approved.
Thank you. Minutes were approved. Next is public input. I see a few members of the public and Reverend Dr. Evelyn Underwood has her hand raised. If anyone else would like to speak, please click on the bottom button where it says, where it has your hand. Okay, so Dr. Underwood, you can, oops. Yeah, Dr.
You know,
Underwood. Yep.
it was up from last night.
Oh,
and
okay.
Apparently they didn't see me last night. You see what I'm saying, y'all? And it's up. I didn't put it up. So let me put it down. Now it was
Okay.
up all last night at city council meeting and nobody saw me. At the last minute they saw me, they said. But but let me take it down because I'm not gonna speak right now. This is public input. I want to listen in because apparently you people will be working with something that I'm very interested in, and I just don't see how they decided to get your group to work with this. But I'm gonna listen in and see because
Okay.
I want to be well educated. Thank you
All right.
very much.
Great, thank you. Next is David Huber. Should be able to unmute.
All right. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is David Huber. I'm a resident of Urbana, specifically 907 East Washington Street. And that street is the topic of concern that I have and many of my neighbors have, and something I wanted to bring before this committee, mostly as a kind of, to bring it to your attention, but also to understand, how much this is on this committee or the city's radar, and in order to kind of understand as we organize as neighbors around this issue, kind of get the lay of the land. I own 4 houses on the street as in total. I renovate them. So I'm a resident and I'm an investor in this street, really, which is between Vine and Philo. specifically that I wanted to talk about, which has a bike lane and is also a major pedestrian thoroughfare because of the high school, middle school, and so on. The issue is really, in general, the culture of traffic, which is really kind of disintegrated dramatically over the last year specifically. There's always been, obviously, traffic in terms of the volume of cars, but it's the behavior of cars that has gotten quite dangerous. Not just the speed, but there's a kind of escalation of dangerous driving that happens where, for instance, if you drive 30, you will get tailgated. 30 is the speed limit. Cars will pass you, meaning they'll swerve out into the opposite lane. There's been threats of violence. Someone has told me they would shoot me, or their boyfriend might come and shoot me. I have been threatened to get beat up. And this is specific to me because I work on the street. So I'm very familiar with the street, and that's specific to needing to back into the driveway or do a kind of maneuver into the driveway that causes people to have to stop. Because the culture of the street is really that it's a fast moving thoroughfare. You get from Philo to Vine or vice versa as fast as you can. Any interruption is a kind of grave issue. That is all the kind of context for why I'm here specifically, because your purview is not this, traffic. There's a traffic commission and so on. But really looking at the issue of the bike lane that's on the street and the condition of it, which is very poor. The markings are worn out entirely in certain areas. So the issue that I brought before the chairman in an email last month or earlier this month is that the street, it really has this wide open field because parking was eliminated on it, I believe, in 2013 in order to put in the bike lane. What has happened is, especially without the bike markings being strong to say that the driving lane is only, 12 feet or something, you really have the sense that you've got a 15, 16, 20 foot lane in each direction. So I'm hoping that some progress as part of this bigger issue could be made around specifically the bike lane that, in the best case scenario, it helps the bicyclists and pedestrians and drivers, hopefully, because and I think just a few more things to lay out the context of why I think it's a high priority issue. One is that it is a major street through Urbana, and in the sense that it is an important street for pedestrians, for bicyclists, people who don't live here. So the concerns of me and my neighbors are not simply ones of, angry neighbors, but there is I think a larger obligation to this specific street. But more specifically to those of us who live on the street. And I think it should be, of a concern to the committee as it looks toward making the bike infrastructure more robust in the city, is that the street parking was eliminated on our street. I didn't live here at the time, but it was brought before the city council, it was debated, and it was eliminated. There is a sense, and it's my own, but it's shared by other neighbors, that we lost something for a greater good, which was a bike lane that served a larger community. But the city has not kept up their kind of end of the bargain as far as maintaining this bike lane. And now there is, and I'm not a traffic expert, but because of the degradation of this bike lane, there's a greater wide open feel to the street. And my sense, I mean, to put all the options on the table, if putting back parking and then putting a Shero lane is going to fix the traffic issue or try to help, then maybe that needs to be put back on the option on the table. But we don't have many exclusive bike lanes in the city, and I would hope that those would be ones that would be a priority to really nurture, to maintain, rather than stripe once every 5 years and kind of move on and say, well, we want to expand somewhere else. So that is the bike thing. I could go on to, just some other context is the city, the police is not allowed to enforce traffic on the streets as part of, let's say, police reform happening, which is fine. But there is a, now that there is an understanding that there is a kind of impunity, there does seem to be a greater recklessness. I can confidently say that, or that's my sense. I don't think policing is the answer. I think street design, all these other elements are what the answer is. But it is important to put that into context. They cannot pull anyone over for anything except, basically, I've been told, going 60 miles an hour, at which point it is a felony. They cannot do a traffic stop for a misdemeanor, is my understanding. They can do it at the intersection of Philo and Washington Street, because there's such a high number of traffic incidents at that particular intersection. It was given a special designation for the police to be able to enforce traffic there. And one other small issue, I'm sorry for being so long winded. Let's say a part of what is this kind of whole street design issue that is worth bringing to your attention as a little bit of a sidebar, but it could be related to helping improve the traffic, is that the south side of Washington Street, and I'm again speaking specifically of the area between the length between Vine and Philo, there's only handicap ramps in one direction, which is the east-west direction. There is, except for, I believe, at Anderson Street, where there is a north-south ramp, there are no ramps in the north-south direction from the south side. However, on the north side of the street, there are ramps in two directions. I'm not sure of the whole history, and maybe Public Works would have more knowledge of this, or if it was simply a bureaucratic thing of like a grant funded one side of the street and the second part didn't come through or something. But so it's all to say that it's possible to cross from the north side of the street heading south down a ramp, and you would dead into a curb. It would be a great thing to put on the city's priority, but I also wonder, why can't we be more aggressive about designating crosswalks as a means of perhaps contributing to, giving something else for drivers to understand, look, you're moving through a neighborhood. This is not just a thoroughfare. Because the last thing I'll say that is unique about this particular stretch is that if you're coming from High Cross Road, there's almost no part of it until you get to Philo, in which there's residences on both sides. For the most of it, it is residences on one side, like where the county offices are, where the DART land is, where the Public Works office, or then once you get to past the county as you're heading west, it's a commercial area. So that is to say that there is a difference between this area and that that's not necessarily reflected in the street design or the speed limit or anything like that. It is more a neighborhood. It is a neighborhood where people pass north-south, and there's not the kind of infrastructure designed in a way that facilitates that. Sorry if that was very long, but that's what I wanted to say. And I hope, I guess to not just lay all this out there, I would be interested in knowing more about the maintenance plan of the bike infrastructure, like if that is a kind of established thing, if there's a plan like that we aspire to restripe the lines every so years, or also like if there's interest in kind of making the current bike lanes more robust. Maybe it's putting signs, the yellow signs that just say like there's a bike lane here, or things along those lines. And then understanding like what more can be done along the lines of pedestrian improvements that perhaps can kind of make this whole street more safe and desirable as a place to walk and move. So that's it. And I'm sorry for being so long-winded.
We did let you go on past past our usual limit.
Okay,
but,
I don't have a timer. I'm on a phone, so I'm sorry if I.
we didn't have the timer up. We don't
Okay.
get a lot of public input, and we know that this is we've talked about this street before.
Okay.
I think we could get into it if we wanted to right now, but I think we really need to kind of restrict ourselves from doing that, and maybe put that on the future agenda as, say, traffic calming on Washington Street.
Yeah, and one last thing, just because you said you brought it up, it's something of concern. There is this kind of there's a kind of fatigue around the issue because there was a few people in particular in the past that really kind of organized around it, and it was before my time. I've only lived in Urbana and on the street for 3 years, and we're trying to gather what happened to that. But a major source point of pushback that I get informally from the city is that it is a public safety or an emergency response corridor. So because of the police station and the fire that needs to pass through it. Now, I don't see why a lot of these street pedestrian bicycle improvements would hinder the response time, but it's a kind of knee-jerk response. Oh, this street is meant to be fast and it needs to be free-flowing because of this. So the point is that there's a fatigue around this issue because it's felt like it hasn't gone anywhere in the past. And I'm new energy, and I like, people are energized, but there is that looming in the background.
Okay, thank you very much. And
thank you very much.
Cynthia, do you have something really quick to say?
Yeah, if we could just ask Shannon when the bike lanes are scheduled to be restriped. I seen restriping going on around the city. I think that's underway now. So maybe she could fill us in on that.
The striping is done for the year except for one turn lane on Windsor Road. We don't do all the city at once. It's a cyclical process.
So you don't know when Washington is scheduled to be restriped?
No, because that's up that we have one of our engineering techs. It's his baby, and so he puts it together. And I'm not sure when this one will be on his list.
Okay, maybe we can get into that a little bit more in our discussion to figure out if there's like a every 3-year cycle, or does it vary between different streets? Or is it just by visual inspection, things like that? I did look at some of the crosswalks, and I understand the reason why some of them didn't go across there. I think there are a couple more. There are some at Maple and maybe Cottage Grove, but and there's other places there's like street lights or fire hydrants or something. But I do think there's some places there that could get additional ramps. So I think it would be a good discussion and talk about crosswalks and ramps and traffic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I just want to give some hope to the public input person. I lived by that street. I have been going on and on and on and on and on and on about this street, as well as Cottage Grove, how the housing prices are depressed because of the current infrastructure on those roads, how the neighbors cannot talk to each other because of the current infrastructure on those roads, which of course raises violence. People are speed racing down those roads. They are incredibly dangerous. They are not nice to walk next to. And they can be easily fixed with some pretty low cost, whether they're bump outs with paint or actual bump outs and crosswalks. This can be fixed, this can happen, and I really appreciate your input. And you have multiple people on this call right now who have also said similar things, who are on the committee. So please continue to work with us. Please continue to help us out here, because we really would love to get these streets fixed. This drives me absolutely wild. Yeah, there's no reason why there can't be a crosswalk or a stop sign at Anderson, and so on and so forth. And I've presented information about crosswalks at Cottage Grove. It's incredible. The person that lives on that corner can't even let her kids out because it's so dangerous there. So and there've been multiple car crashes and things like that. So I just thank you so much for calling in and sharing this information with us.
Let's put it on the agenda.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I really appreciate the connection to bike lanes, making the street feel more narrow and providing more calming effect. So yeah, let's be sure to put traffic calming on Washington Street on our agenda. So next, I don't see any other, oh, Tom Valencia has his hand up. Can you unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay. I'll try to make my comments brief. So just to introduce myself, my name is Thomas Valencia. I am a sophomore in the urban planning program at the U of I. I physically live in Urbana. I live in the Orchard Downs apartment complex. And I'm originally from the city of Zion, Illinois, which is the far northern suburbs of Chicago up by Wisconsin. So just to like commend our city of Urbana, like, while there are lots of issues to be addressed, I will say compared to where I'm from in the far northern suburbs, this place is like bike heaven. It's a lot better than where I'm from. I think in where I'm from, there's like only one set of bike lanes for like a short stretch. But here it's like everywhere. So, and the fact that this commission even exists within a municipality is also another reason why like this place is really good. So those are my sense of gratification. So one of the couple things I just wanted to like mention in my own experience biking around Urbana is there's like leaves building up along lots of bike lanes. So I didn't mention this, I just realized, but I'm also Cynthia Hoyle's intern for the Safe Routes to School project. I do not know why that did not make it into my comments initially, but that's also who I am. So I was biking today from the MTD offices along Race Street. And Race Street, a lot of leaves have been piled up along the bike lanes. And I try to like go out of the bike lane and onto the main street, but I was biking during this high traffic, area. It was like around 5 p.m. So like I couldn't safely go onto the main road. I had to stay in the bike lane, but I also had to slow down because there were lots of leaves. So I don't know what the city of Urbana like does to address that, but it would be ideal if there were like the leaves were just like taken off the bike lane so it's safer. That's my first comment. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about, this is more ambitious and more, capital funding, like it needs more capital funding, but like I feel like Lincoln Avenue, at least from like University down to Florida, needs like a dedicated set of bike lanes. There's lots of other streets in Urbana that are pretty low traffic, they have lower traffic numbers that have bike lanes, but Lincoln Avenue is a very busy corridor, and I think it deserves bike lanes, in my opinion. There are a lot of people biking to and from, like, say, like the ISR small area down to the FAR, PAR area, and having a straight shot down Lincoln Avenue with bike lanes would be really nice. And the other place I would like bike lanes to be implemented on is Florida Avenue from like Lincoln to Philo. And I know that's part of a corridor study with the Regional Planning Commission. So I guess there's some type of effort with that. And I'm aware that, Jeff Marino is part of the City of Champaign's planning department. I took one of your colleagues, Ben Leroy's class, so I know who you are. So if there were to be bike lanes on Florida, I would like that there would be bike lanes on Kirby Avenue once that turns into Kirby Avenue. So First point is a little simple, clean the use off the bike lanes, and then the second point, more ambitious. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. And I would just point out that the thing that looks like a sidewalk on the south side of Florida that turns into Kirby is actually considered a multi-use path. So feel free to use that for your bicycle as you go across to like the Assembly Hall. Okay, I think that's it for public input.
Thank you,
Cynthia-
public.
Yes, thank you, public.
Cynthia, you have your hand raised.
Okay. Next is unfinished business. And we have one item that Bridget Brahan will be talking about.
Bill, could I hop in here? I was wondering if Barb might be able to mute herself. I think there's some background noise coming in.
Oh, Barb. Is that where the background's coming from? Okay. And let me just, unless Bridget, were you going to give like an overview of where we are with the EQL, or I could talk a little bit about what we've done already at BPAC.
Well, actually, since I'm the communications specialist, I was just going to talk about the communications plan.
Okay.
And I know a little about the rest of it, but I don't know if I can easily.
Yeah, let me just.
I'm not an expert on that part. Let me just say that.
Let me just say a couple of things in case our two public members are still here or people watch us later. We were asked by Carol Mitten, City Administrator, to help direct the prioritization of funding. They've allocated basically $2 million for equity and quality of life projects. And the way they're defining those is small projects that can be done quickly without a lot of like engineering, without any purchase of right of way, up to maybe $250,000 max for a small project, but probably less than that for most of them, so that we could fund multiple projects, maybe 8, 10, 12, maybe even a little more, to make small differences in neighborhoods have been overlooked. So phase one basically was coming up with that kind of description of what the funding was going to be for, and it would be infrastructure projects specifically, not programs. So it'd be things that would be under Public Works, and they would probably contract a lot of it out, but it would be things like sidewalks, street lights, partly geared towards safety with the emphasis towards safety. So street lights, sidewalks, bicycle infrastructure, but also potentially beautification projects, small corner projects with benches, something like that. Anything that involves infrastructure.
Like traffic calming, ADA compliance.
ADA compliance.
I almost wish that I had given this earlier and then the public comments could have come afterwards, because I see some opportunities here.
Well, and I did mention to him in the email that the ramps especially would probably qualify. And also, and then phase two basically was coming up with a scoring system that was recommended by Carol, and we provided input on. So there's a scoring system that basically, a large part of it is being from low and middle income neighborhoods, which I think we're defining as CDBG designated areas. And there is one at least along Weber and Washington there that would qualify in that area. But there are a lot of CDBG areas. There's a map online, or I have a map in my box folder if anybody wants to look at it later. So that was phase two, basically coming up with a scoring and then an application. So there's a real simple application, just a few questions to try to encourage as many applications and ideas from people as possible. So yeah, Bridget is the communication specialist for the city, and she's come up with kind of an introduction to how to get the word out about this program, and then it would direct people to the website, and she can tell you more.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. This is really interesting. I think I'm going to tune in more. Okay, so Our overall main strategy for this plan is to have repeated key messages on social media, our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts specifically. They will contain specific and repetitious content so that all messages, whether they be about sidewalks or streetlights or even crosswalks, will have the same rhythm, tone, and theme. They will include photographs to enhance the interest of the messages as well. The city's overall reach is about 30,000 views a week for all of our social media accounts. Now, you probably sound like, wow, impressed, but we do have a lot of media accounts. We have like 14. So utilizing this method should be really effective for getting the word out. We'll have corresponding hashtags that will be used to enhance the reach. Hashtags are used to search for topics on social media akin to a Google search. Like if you were to put in the hashtag Urbana, put it in Facebook, for example, everything with that hashtag would pull up. So we will use specific hashtags, support hashtags, and broad hashtags to increase the breadth of our messaging. The specific hashtags will be focused directly on our audience and will take the user directly to the information correlated with that particular hashtag. Support hashtags are ones that have been established in other messaging strategies utilized by the city. For example, hashtag here to serve you, which is used in our public safety messages. The broader hashtags like hashtag Urbana, which is worldwide because it means urban in other languages, will help us increase our reach and help us to incur interest in a more rapid manner. Kind of like happy accidents, like somebody might put in hashtag Urbana and then they stumble upon our thing and go, wow, that's neat. And of course, they're probably not going to be from Urbana, but then they might go to our website, see other things that we do, and so on and so forth. We will also have information on a web page. And then, of course, our social media will lead to that page. We'll put out a press release, a public service announcement, and that's optional. It depends on UPTV at the time. And of course, word of mouth, like you guys, I think, would be really good at this. So the strategy timeline is this. Number one, we'll have the website page in place, and it will be edited for content, authenticity, attractiveness, and ease of navigation. So the URL is going to be urbanaillinois.us/EQL. And don't try it because it's not live yet. Number two, we'll have our key messages. They will be prepared and we will have them ready to go out on social media. We'll preload them and then you can do them ahead of time. So we'll have those all ready to go. Number three, a concerted media blast will be opened up with our messages and we'll put them on all of our social media pages simultaneously. I'm talking fire, police, the arts, UPTV, us. Then we'll have a press release sent out at the same time, and then the optional PSA spot may run on UPTV. So I will schedule the messages for peak times, like work break, like 9 in the morning to 11 in the morning, and like 3 in the afternoon, morning, early evening, and weekend time slots. I found that to be really effective. So here are the components. Our key message is the city of Urbana wants to improve the health and safety in underserved neighborhoods with small infrastructure projects that will have a big impact. Our sub-key message is this: we are listening. Go here to tell us how to improve Urbana through the Equity and Quality Life Project, urbanaillinois.us/EQL. The key phrase is small money, big impact. The key hashtag is hashtag small money, big impact. The key support hashtag is hashtag here to serve you. Our broad hashtags, those that have a high presence in social media, hashtag Urbana, because it means urban in many languages, hashtag safe, hashtag health, hashtag safety, and I picked happiness just because I think being safe makes you feel happy. Then we'll always have a graphic, a picture that will help enhance each message to make it clear and direct. And let me tell you, most of our messaging will have these basic components, and it will be over and over and over, like advertising. You hear the same thing over and over, and you start to go, oh, I know that. but our pictures will change. I have found that if someone sees the same picture over and over, they tend to just scroll by. So we want our pictures to be exciting and different. And I've gotten a few ideas tonight from public input, actually, for new messages. So here are some basic examples that I quickly put up on Facebook and then took them down because, of course, they're not live yet. So my first one was this picture of, a dark street, no street lights except for the cars. And it kind of makes me feel like I used to live on East Washington Street when I was a kid, and it was like that. We didn't have any street lights at the time. It was not very safe. So the example is dark streets are not safe. The city of Urbana wants to improve the health and safety in underserved neighborhoods with small infrastructure projects that will have a big impact. We are listening. Go here to tell us how to improve Urbana through the Equity and Quality of Life Project, urbanaillinois.us/EQL, small money, big impact, and then the hashtags. And these things in blue, if you were to click on any of those, they would take you to those places. My next example, I thought about it because a young man was telling me how he can lock up his bike, but he can't lock it to anything. So he rides his bike to work and he's always afraid it's going to be stolen. So he runs out all the time to check if his bike is still there. So that kind of made me think that was something that maybe this could help with. Here's the message. This bike is locked, but it could easily be carried away. There are no bicycle racks in the area. The city of Urbana wants to improve the health and safety in underserved neighborhoods with small infrastructure projects that will have a big impact, and so on and so forth. And these are just examples that I made up to show you guys. I would really like your input on what else you would like to see. Like tonight, I wrote down crosswalks. I think that's a really important one. And I'll make up a message for that too. Here's another example. Do you feel safe walking in a neighborhood with no sidewalks? And then we have a little girl, she's walking with her little stuffed animal on a curb, which is definitely not safe. And then the rest of the messaging are the same components. And then we have another one. Would a sidewalk ramp help the mobility in your neighborhood? No, of course it would. And then again, like I said earlier, the same components. And then I have a couple more examples. And these are probably not going to be ones that I think, in my opinion, it would just probably be good if we did a lot of light safety stuff. But I'm also on a project with public health, and we've been seeing that when these kinds of things are added to neighborhoods, it brings up the quality of life. So I added a couple of these because of that. So we feel good when we share a community space, and then the messaging that follows it is the standard messaging. And then my next example is beautiful spaces make us healthier. So, and then so on. So those are some of the examples. This is the 30-second public service announcement, and I say it's optional because we're, I don't know if you know, but Jason Liggett is leaving. We have new staff coming in, and it's not maybe possible for this to help, for them to help us. So we're hoping, but if we do get to use it, this will be a message. Small money, big impact. The Equity and Quality of Life Project is a capital program initiated by the city of Urbana to address tactical infrastructure needs with a focus on underserved neighborhoods. The goal is to improve the health and safety for Urbana residents in tangible ways through a series of small projects. And guess what? Urbana residents get to submit their ideas for consideration. Go here today to tell us how to help you. urbanaillinois.us/EQL, small money, big impact. So we thought we could do a small commercial. I would like to hear any comments or questions that you may have. I also would like you to share ideas that you may have for posts that we could also include, and any other questions you might have. Anybody?
Great, thank you very much. Any questions or suggestions?
Suggestions, yeah.
I had one suggestion for wording, and it was in that optional recorded segment, but the text was elsewhere, and it said like residents get to submit projects, which kind of made it seem like the higher city is like allowing people to submit things, but in reality, what we want is like, we need you, this is important, we're encouraging it. I know it's kind of minor, but that just stood out to me the first time I read it.
Actually, no, I don't you think when it comes to communication, these small things can be so important. And I'll tell you what, I worked for the News Gazette for a long time, and every day I would get edited and corrected. And I'll tell you what, that's when we want to do it, before we put out that public face. So really, I want to hear any and all suggestions that you have. Even if like later something pops in your head, shoot me an email, or you see something on one of our posts and you're like, oh, I don't know about that. Shoot me an email. I would be more than happy, or just call me. I would be more than happy to entertain anything you have to say. It would really help me out. So thank you. I agree with you.
Cynthia?
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited about this, and I'm excited to hear that you can add crosswalks. And so I was wondering, from the comments you made, can we add something like traffic calming to the mix here? Because there are things that we could employ on streets like Washington that would not be a problem for emergency vehicles and things like that, and could dramatically improve safety and slow down traffic. Now, of course, that requires a safety study to put that infrastructure in, as Shannon will be quick to tell us. But I think we still want to hear from the public about locations where there are concerns and that we might be able to do something. And bike lanes are a form of traffic calming when you narrow down traffic lanes. So I think that there are a variety of things that we could do, and a lot of these are included in by the Federal Highway Administration as approved methods for increasing roadway safety. And so it would be really great if we could employ more of those on our streets, because as our speaker said earlier, we can't improve safety by enforcement alone. We really have to address the design of the roadway. And that can be addressed with paint easily in many cases, just like we did on Lincoln, where we did the road diet.
I agree. Also, I wanted to if I'm a photographer, so if you know of a good spot for a picture, like I'm looking for an orphan sidewalk. Do you guys know what those are? You have sidewalk, all of a sudden it ends, and then it might even pick up again. So I think there's opportunities there too. I'm looking for possibilities for photo ops. So if you know of any, like Annie, you suggested earlier about the crosswalk. I think I'm gonna shoot for that. So, and I want it happening in their neighborhood too. I can do it in such a way that it's, doesn't show houses and stuff. It just takes a picture of the particular thing. But if you have ideas for art, let me know. I would welcome that too.
We should go back and check Gary Zico's pictures from ages ago.
What are those? I don't even know about
Gary
those.
Zico did a whole photo essay of things like orphan sidewalks. And I mean, it was through Champaign and Urbana, but he had but this was what, 20 years ago? 50, so hopefully.
Yeah, some of them have been fixed,
but it would totally be worth going and perusing that. I will sniff it out.
Thank you.
Annie, I think you had your hand up.
So Bridget, I do social media for a bunch of accounts, and I rely on something called the Social Media Directors Committee. So I'm sort of in a slightly fortunate position in that, like, otherwise I'm just doing it on my own. I don't know how much of big of a team you have, if it's you or if you have some smart interns. Yeah, yeah. So it's like you're talking to yourself and you don't know what you're doing, right? And you're doing the best you can. You're just sort of putting stuff out there, hoping it works. So I'm lucky because at the university, we have the social media directors meeting, and we all get together and we share best practices and we share how to do things. Like, for example, with Instagram now, you can actually upload with a browser instead of a smartphone, which is delightful. But
It
I was
is.
yeah, it's like a you think, you didn't see everyone's faces. What? Anyway, a few things I was just going to mention to you is the University of Illinois is kind of cutting back on hashtags. They're only using sort of some big ones, some big lead ones like Illinois. They're not finding a lot of use in the hashtags that you know about that. They also have found posting times for them. Their weekends are non-existent, and these are different accounts than you're dealing with. Their weekend times are not, but they kind of haven't found like exactly posting times that really seem to do great. And then my other comment is the thing that you're talking about as a photographer. Definitely use images that are from Urbana, because people will feel that they are more authentic and interesting, and versus like, you know, pictures from other cities. They'll be like, well, the other city has it, we don't. You know, like, so those are sort of my little things. Yeah, and I could probably pull you aside and get you some coffee and try to share.
I
with you
almost
all
wish
the
I
stuff.
could be a fly on the wall at your, I wish I could be a fly on the wall at your meetings. That would be nice.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
can't tell you
appreciate
how
it.
grateful I am for
Anything
that
you can
group. I learned so much because otherwise you're just kind of out there trying to figure it all out, you know? Yeah. So anyway, that was
and
sort of
why,
my.
yeah, why reinvent the wheel? You know, if somebody can help me along, makes me happy. So
There you
that's
go.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are 3 things I just recently learned, and I'm sharing them with you. That was-
Thank you. This is great.
Audrey?
Hi. I just had a couple things. I know there's a sidewalk that ends on East Main. I think it's around Scottswood. And it just comes to an end and there's nothing on the other side. Sidewalks cease to exist. And that's also, I'm sure, a primary neighborhood for possible potential projects. We did have a fatality at East Main and Dewey. So I'm sure there's things that can be done to improve, including lighting and so on. Also, I'm just thrilled with this work, and I'm wondering, how do we get you to help us with Vision Zero messaging? We have a survey that we need to get blasted out to get people's input and awareness that Urbana is working on being a Vision Zero city, that it's made the commitment to Vision Zero. And of course, there's lots of messaging available, but how do we get it out there? Because Vision Zero Network is actually a hugely supportive community of, there's over 40 communities that have made the commitment to be Vision Zero. So how do we get access to get those messages blasted out?
You can just contact me. Sounds like Annie has good ideas too. So yeah, just contact me.
Can I ask a question about benches? Are benches on the table for something like this? If someone's like waiting for a bus, Cynthia, are benches something that, if Bridget wants to, like, because I love your approach. I love the way you're trying to be really specific about it, so people really understand, like, this is what this is, instead of this like wide ranging safety project, or like, I like that you're really trying to put into people's mind what sort of projects we're looking for, which is really hard. And I think you've done a great job framing this. And it's pretty exciting. So
I think you could make a good case for
Yeah.
benches. I mean, it makes the space more walkable, and people get out more and walk more. It's safe for neighborhoods. So I think you could make that case.
For the transit district, there was a plan done by the Regional Planning Commission for bus stop amenities. So there are specific parameters and metrics for what goes where. So it would be based on that. And I think MTD's actually done a pretty good job of putting in the infrastructure based on the level of usage at a bus stop. But it, you know, I guess you could ask MTD if there are spots that they want work on. I know one thing that would be helpful to them is to make sure that there are sidewalks that are in good condition that connect to the bus stops. And I think our pedestrian plan has some of that information. And that was one of the things that I had brought up early in this process, is that we have all of that information in our pedestrian plan. And it tells you where we need sidewalks and what needs to be done and which sidewalks need to be fixed. So that it's not actually a small dollar project to fix that, but I think that it would reinforce, if you hear from neighborhoods, about sidewalk issues. If it's in the plan, that gives us really good reinforcement for undertaking those projects.
Well, and I know they said, Carol said that, even city staff or even a person, maybe they don't live in Urbana, but they do business in Urbana, if they know of a situation, they're certainly welcome to get on and put their idea out there, as if it benefits Urbana. So if you know of particular things, you could always do that.
And are trees something, or is that like living infrastructure, not something that's like 250?
Actually, wouldn't it be somewhat with streetscapes? I mean, and it might
That's
be
true with the flower picture you had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do-
Yeah,
I
that's
do
a great idea. Planters or something. Yeah, like you could do. Okay, cool. All right. Just trying to give you some really. I love the way you're positioning this with some really hard ideas. Like just put it out there.
The Arbor Division actually got a big grant in the past year for trees, so I wouldn't use this money for trees. So.
And it would confuse, Shannon, you're right, because it would confuse the messaging. People would be like, I saw they wanted tree ideas. That's for this, and now they want other tree ideas.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. That's really helpful.
So maybe, Shannon, maybe you would know, maybe if we did get a suggestion about trees, would it be something, if it did overlap into one of our tree initiatives, would we just give them the info? I mean, I don't know. I was thinking about that too.
We could certainly pass the information to Kevin Sanderson. And for all I know, he may already have a list of like suggestions people have given him. I'm not sure. So I know we just had a big truck of trees show up at Public Works an accident when it was supposed to get an LRC. So I know trees got planted this year.
Yeah, they do a good job. So, I know some people think like the streetscapes, things like that are like, it's a fluffy thing, but if you think about public health, I mean, there are several threats to public health. One of them is racism. Another one is just, you're not safe. You don't feel safe. I mean, how can you grow and thrive when you don't feel safe? And another one is just, do you feel good? And if you're walking around and you like what you see and you enjoy your neighborhood and you talk to your neighbors, I mean, that brings up your quality of life. So that's kind of where I got that. Well, this has been really fun, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, because I mean,
Thank
that
you.
was like on Washington or on like Cottage Grove, one of like or I used to live on Bob Ash in Washington. One of my fantasies was to put just a giant like planter. Like that was something that we did in another neighborhood I lived in, is we put these like planters in the middle of the road, and then you would plant stuff in the planters, but it would also slow down cars. And we had the emergency vehicle question, and we responded with, that's okay if you have to drive a little slower, which they didn't, but that was anyway. But yeah, so planters, I think, could exactly what you presented there could be an idea. They're not all going to get accepted. I mean, people are just going to submit a bunch of stuff. So
thank you, everybody.
Is there, I just thought of this, is there a risk of getting too many small proposals and not enough like big impact proposals of, $100,000 to $200,000 instead of all $5,000 to $10,000 proposals? Do you have anything in your pictures that show anything that would be like the scale of 1 to 200,000?
So I was planning on going out some evening and getting the Kinch, how we put lights on Kinch and, doing stuff like that. I just haven't had a chance. Yeah, we need to do some small and then big.
Okay.
Like a whole, like over near Scottswood. I mean, there aren't any sidewalks. I mean, that could be a big thing.
I do want to just caution though that some of those things you guys have mentioned are not within the city of Urbana control.
Right. Some of Scottswood is not in there. I think it's just one street, right? That's
part of one street.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one whole street.
Actually, I just looked on Google Street View. It's at Dodson that the sidewalk ends. It goes it goes across the street and ends at someone's driveway. So it's Dodson and Maine.
Yeah, and that might be in that donut hole that's unincorporated Urbana. So I'll be careful about taking pictures. I really will.
And Bridget, you do know that Shel Silverstein lived here, right?
Get
Shel
out, are you
Silverstein, where the
kidding me?
sidewalk end. Oh, how do you think he got the title for his book? And the tree book I mean,
Okay, so you
come
know, my
on.
name is Bridge, but don't try to sell me one because I'll probably buy it.
No, he really did. He really did go to school
Really?
here.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
awesome.
he
I
really was
love
here.
him.
Yeah, I know. It's makes perfect sense. Yeah. So yeah, I tried researching it to get more specific, but I've not had a lot of luck.
All right. Thanks for that tidbit. Okay, thanks a lot, Bridget.
Thank you, everybody.
And if you come back, maybe we can talk again.
And please shoot me your ideas, any and
Okay.
all.
I'll try to
Thank
get
you
you on
very
that social media directors meeting. I doubt it, but I'll try.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Let's see. Next is reports of city official staff and reports of committees.
What about my unofficial business, my unfinished business for?
Oh, was that
added
gonna
to
be,
the agenda?
that's unfinished, right? Okay, I
Yeah.
forgot where that was gonna be. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I hope you all had a chance to see the draft that I sent you for the internship. And I did get good feedback from Nancy. She pointed out a typo that I fixed. And so I just wanted to get any input from you before I send it off. And I'm sure we'll get quite a few responses. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in working on this.
I just want to add that Public Works likely will not have any time commitment to help out. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to even include us on that. I'm not sure about community development. So,
well, they will want to run some of this information. They will have to get some information from you in terms of projects that have been done. I don't see how they can get that information if they don't ask you. I was planning on them working out of my office and I would supervise them, but there's information that only you have that they need to be able to get.
right. And what I'm saying is right now, I don't know if we're going to have time to sit down and collate said information. I did run this past Tim Cowan earlier today. And so he said we cannot promise any time or staff support. So.
Okay, so we'll have to work around that. I guess, you know, if we need to send scouts out to see if the sidewalk has been built, we can do that. There may be some information. I know in previous capital improvement plans until the last couple of years, there were maps included with each CIP that showed the progress for that particular year and what was planned for the next year. So there are some historical documents like that that we could use or provide the intern with so that they could narrow down the questions quite a bit. Any other suggestions for Cynthia's or intern announcement? Is that what it is, basically? Internship announcement? Okay, if you think of anything, send it to her fast because she's going to get it out there. Thank you. Now, reports of...
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah. Reports of official staff and committees. Staff, Shannon, do you have anything?
Not this time.
Okay. I did have one question I submitted to city staff, a couple of members of city staff, about what's going on with abandoned bicycle pickup. The animal control officer used to pick up the abandoned bicycles, but now we don't have an animal control officer. She left the city and they decided not to replace her, from what I understand. So there's nobody to do that. And when somebody called in an abandoned bicycle, they were told that Public Works would come pick it up. And then they were called back from the police desk later saying, oh, we don't do that anymore. You can donate it to somebody. So I think there's some communication problems about what the procedures are when people find abandoned bicycles in their yards. And that kind of brings up the question of what the current registration process is and whether these abandoned bicycles, I always assumed that they would be checked against any kind of registration. I know I've registered a couple bikes in Urbana, and I've assumed that they'd be checked against any reports of stolen lists. So I don't have the answer to those questions. I've asked a couple of staff members, I've gotten no answers to those questions. So if Barb or Shannon or anybody out there who works for the city knows what's going on with that, please let us know.
Bill, I think I did respond to you. This is Barb.
Yeah, you said it was entered in a spreadsheet. You said
And
Public
we
Works
pick
would
them up. Urbana Public Works picks them up
Okay.
and they're put into storage. Now, police, if there's report of a theft, the police department would get that and they would have access to look at those bikes. So did I not answer the question? I'm confused.
Well, you said that you did say that Public Works would pick them up, and then I found out later that the police desk wasn't telling people that. So that's a communication problem. But then you said that it was put in a spreadsheet, and then nobody ever said what happens from that point. So you just said that if police have a bike that's reported stolen, they check that list. But is the reverse true? When you pick up an abandoned bicycle and put it on that list, is there a way to check that against a list of stolen bikes?
And I'm sorry, I really don't have that answer. I can't answer that for you. But I know that Public Works is picking them up now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That helps. So we can at least tell people that the Public Works will come pick up the bike and they'll enter the information.
Well, actually, the information is entered first. That's how they know to go pick up the bike. Like if our front office gets a call that there's an abandoned bike, or the police department gets a call that there's an abandoned bike, we put it into a spreadsheet and then our staff at Public Works will pick it up. And we take it, we store it.
At some point, somebody needs to record the serial number, and sometimes the people that find it in their yard might not know where to find that. I assume that once they pick it up, if the serial number wasn't reported, you'll enter that in the spreadsheet.
We have not been doing that. I can ask. That's I'm not sure that we always get that information, but I can ask.
Okay, thanks, Barb.
The other question, Barb, I would have is, it seems strange that the city would just hold on to these bikes endlessly. It seems like they should at some point be donated or.
They are.
Okay.
To Don Moyers. The last I recall was to Don Moyers.
Okay.
So maybe they just sit there for a year, and then after, like, there's just a time when a certain amount of bikes then just go.
Well, the police used to do a bike giveaway. If you remember, they used to store them in the old Goodyear building that was north of the city building, and then once a year or maybe every other year, they would do a bike giveaway, and people would volunteer to fix up some of them to make sure they were working. But when they lost that storage, and maybe because of other staff time constraints, they don't do that anymore. But yeah, it'd be good to follow up a little bit to make sure. I mean, they only have so much storage space, so I'm sure that they want to give them away at some point.
Yeah, and the other thing that you brought up, Bill, that we still have never gotten around to, and maybe is a good future topic, is bike registration.
Yeah. Yeah, we need clarification on that.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about that, the bicycle registration, because so is City of Urbana promoting the 529 system that the university has or not?
It's not on our website, and I can't get any answer from staff about what the plan is with that. We asked about it, I think it was over a year ago. And I think staff said they were evaluating it, or
yeah,
I don't know the details. That's something, I don't know if this was a cost issue, but that's something that we don't have the resources right now to figure out the answer to that.
So a few things that, I mean, there were some conflicting information going around. When we had started the bike registration conversation, there was a $500 fee, which was to add additional communities. And at that time, the university had asked City of Urbana and Champaign, and we were told, no, we cannot contribute at this moment. So the university covered it. For this year on, so starting from July of 21, we moved away from the community level, but it is still open to everybody in City of Urbana and City of Champaign and Village of Savoy. So there is no charge for City of Urbana directly. And I have told this before. There is no direct charge to City of Urbana. There is still a $10 registration fee per person per bicycle.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is really a staff report, but do you know, does the City of Urbana have the capability then to, when they find a bike that somebody reports as abandoned, go into check to see if it's in that list?
I had actually reached out to somebody at City of Urbana Police Department last year. They were very interested. I cannot remember their name. There were actually two people. They were very interested, but at that time they had said that City Police is not actually at the building, so we are not able to collaborate at this moment. And I don't think they're still in the building or open to public. Right?
Okay.
So,
well, the building's open now to the police window. So they do have police services at the window now.
okay.
It might have been him, the Lieutenant Matt.
I think so. I think his name was Matt.
Okay.
Matt Bain?
Yeah, he's the police
Yes.
services lieutenant.
Yes.
Maybe we should put this on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
I mean, I can reach out to him again and ask him because I had offered him to train him on the system, give him access and everything.
Okay.
But at that time, like he had said, we are not able to do that.
Okay, it sounds like we need to get with him and try to refine the procedures a little bit since there's been a change in the pickup and everything. Okay. So I think that's all the reports. Next is new business. Annie, do you have anything to present on the bike racks? I know we sent out a note with a lot of links in it that people might have had a chance to look at.
I'm not sure. I didn't send anything to the whole group, did I? You did.
I put it in notes and there.
It did go out.
Okay.
Yeah, Barb
Yeah.
sent it out. Bill put it together, meeting notes, and it did
Okay.
go out, and I did look at it.
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry. The last 8 weeks have been beyond nutty for me, so I'm just holding on. So I do have some photo. Well, I guess just to back the whole thing up. What this discussion is about is at one point I was trying to figure out. This is like a 7-year hunt here. I've heard that we had a pile of bike racks. A city employee who no longer works for the city said there are a pile of uninstalled bike racks. And I said, what? Because I know personally that every year those bike racks sit there, we're going to get a new, better bike rack. And so it's just better to install them, get them out there, get them working. And then as the new bike rack designs come forward, we can install the newer ones. So there's really no point in I don't know why they're there. So anyway, it just took about 7 years of me constantly asking every now and then, could someone find the bike racks? Could someone tell me how many bike racks we have? And I did get that answer, and it's very exciting. And the bike racks, it's my understanding, I don't have any paperwork on this. I'm sure the city of Urbana has, when they were put into inventory, I'm sure there's an inventory. I mean, I used to run a warehouse. There should be an inventory. That's all I thought was I could just find an inventory and it would say, these are how many bike racks we have. They came into the inventory it was my understanding they came into the inventory because of a small business grant. And so the point was that the businesses would get a free bike rack, but they would have to pay to have it installed. So fast forward 7 years or slow forward 7 years. We have a small black bike rack inventory. We have about 15 U-shaped racks, 10 V-shaped racks, and those are stored at 704 Glover. So, and Public Works said they would install them for businesses. Now, I do have photographs. I can share my screen. Let's see, I would need access to share my screen. If that's possible. Or is it desktop one? Oh no, Adobe Photoshop. Let's see if it works if I do this. Oh, I have to do my system preferences. I'll probably have to leave and come back into the meeting. I'm on a Mac. Quit and reopen. All right.
Hey, Bill, there's a hand raised in the attendees. I just wanted.
Dr. Underwood, did you want to unmute? You have your hand raised again.
No, I must have done that while I'm listening, but I didn't raise my hand. I must have hit something.
Okay.
No, thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, just checking. Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's exciting when we have public involved. So.
Yeah, we love it. Because there's so many things that we often say, and we feel like we try to represent people in the city as best we can, but we often hear that it's just you that has that problem. So it's great when other people show up and say, actually, we have that problem too. So we appreciate it. Okay, so to the best of my understanding, this would be they have, there's 10 of these, I believe, in storage. And then there's probably, if this is a V, I don't know if that's the V or something like this is the V rack. So I feel terrible for not being able to answer this question,
No,
but
this is the V rack they're talking about. It, Annie, and Bill mentioned this, the varsity rack.
which is it this or something? Is it this or something else?
It's like that one. It's
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna stop my share. So we've just gotten sort of some confusing feedback on it. Like at one point it was like, well, actually, no, we're not gonna install these at businesses. Because initially my idea was, let's bring this to BPAC and let's talk about where would be good places to have these installed. Like what businesses should we reach out to? Rick's Brewery needs more bike racks. So Bake Lab needs bike racks, so on and so forth. So we thought that would be the discussion. And then we got some more emails from the city saying, actually, we just kind of want to put them in parks. And we were like, whoa, I don't really think these need to be in parks. I don't think that's really helpful. So I just thought at this point, I think it's just kind of time for BPAC to maybe have a broader discussion about bike racks. So that's kind of all I've got on that. It's just very exciting that we have 25 racks. And I don't know if anybody else has anything else they want to add to that.
Yeah, Jeff.
Annie or Kat, does the city of Urbana currently require new commercial businesses to install bike with their permits? I see you shaking your head yes.
Yes, Jeff, I can confirm new businesses are required to install bike racks.
And what about redeveloping businesses? So, you have a restaurant and then it gets converted to a retail store. Would they be installed or required to install a bike rack?
That's always a hot topic. If there are parking lot improvements that are being done, we would probably trigger new bicycle parking to be installed. If there is a change of use that's not going to result in significant construction or improvement to the building or the parking lot, then no new parking or bike parking or really car parking either would be triggered.
But I guess at least with new commercial development and some redevelopment, there will be bike loops installed over time.
Yes.
So, Kara, does the Park District need bike racks?
Shannon did reach out to us, and we had recently purchased around 12 of the green inverted U racks that we're installing on our own. So for the amount of land area we have, we're pretty good for right now, but we did appreciate the city reaching out to us, Shannon specifically.
I know I've noticed businesses that have outdated bike racks and other businesses that were businesses before the bike rack ordinance passed and everything. They're missing bike racks. So I think it makes sense to try to get them in use at those places where people need them. I guess the question is, what kind of is it sustainable beyond the 25 bike racks? Do we just want to try to get the 25 bike racks out there, or do we want to create a program that we could continue after that, or maybe start something as a trial, and then if it works well and is popular, convince city council to allocate, what's a bike rack's like $200, and installation's probably another 100 or 200, so they would need to allocate some funding for it. So what are people's thoughts about what kind of things we could do to get the bike racks out there where they could be used?
Well, the school district is interested in the loops. They're not interested in the VRACs, which would leave us down to, I think, 5. So.
So obviously the equity feedback will be really important in identifying locations where the public says they need bike parking. So we need to coordinate with Bridget in that and see if the city wants to use the existing bike racks or if they want to use the grant to purchase more bike racks. I'm interested to hear where the school district wants to put bike racks in, because the health department did a huge install of bike racks for them with a grant that they had. But if they've had bike parking increases in locations that they're currently under, and they have less bike racks than they need, that's great news. But I think one of the big things we're going to find from the feedback that they get through the equity program is there are locations people bike regularly, people who work at businesses and people who are going to businesses where there are no bike racks, or there are bike racks in really bad locations. And so I think I would like to see them go at businesses. I'm a little less enthusiastic about apartment complexes. I think they ought to install their own bike racks. But I mean, it's a question. If it's a neighborhood that they have a high theft rate and they're small apartment buildings and the apartment owners aren't going to put a bike rack in, then the people who live there really deserve to have some way that they can secure their bikes.
I think one of the links you sent us had a pretty simple application where anybody who thought a place needed a bike rack could submit it, and then if it was approved, the city staff person would contact the owner of the property, or look first at public right-of-way and sidewalks in front of the business, see if there's room to put one there in the public right-of-way, and if not, to contact the owner of the business or property and try to work with them to find a location for it. So that's a possibility. If there's a way to, that could almost just be in the current feedback form we have for Urbana, just encourage people to submit ideas for where they want bike racks through that. The citizen's voice that Barb reads and gets stuff out. So I don't know, that's one possibility, but it sounds like there aren't a whole lot that we're going to need to distribute if the school district could take a lot. Audrey?
Yeah, I mean, if Bridget puts out that sample Facebook ad that she had there showing that bike racks could be one of the applications, I have a feeling what's left would be snapped up pretty fast. If that actually goes out, I realize that was just a prototype she had there, but I would imagine the inventory we have will be gone quickly. between, if it's only 5 of the V ones, which I think are great. I'm surprised people don't like those more.
Yeah, I like them.
I-
Cynthia says they aren't very good for the big bikes. What do you call
They're
them?
also very
Cargo.
easily damaged. The ones outside Public Works have been damaged. The ones along Green Street and Champaign are constantly damaged. They're actually not nearly as sturdy as the loops.
They're inadvertently damaged, or
Oil, I think people screwing around. They're easy to
Uh-huh.
pop out of the concrete. They're easy to bend. They're not nearly as sturdy as the loops.
Yeah, and for a cargo bike, you can position it much easier with a U loop than you can with those V loops, and there are more and more people using a variety of different cargo bikes, and so it's one of the things we ought to think about as we look at our bike parking standards and installation, to make sure that we give people enough space. And most of the time we have. I mean, Sue and I have cargo bikes, and most of the time we can park without a problem. But like the shelter in front of Common Ground, positioning my bike next to that isn't always easy, especially since there's abandoned bikes chained up that have been there 2 years now that haven't been removed.
Okay, so it's the feeling that we should wait and see how many are snapped up with the equity and quality of life projects, and then maybe reconsider this at some point in the future.
Can I, Shannon, where are the bike racks gonna get installed?
Wherever Urbana School District wants to put them after we give them to them. They didn't tell me. I just offered them like I did Kara. I said, are you interested in these? And they said yes. So
Cool. And will the city install them, or is the school district gonna install them?
probably the school district.
Cool. That would be, and that would be great social media for the city. Frankly, people love stuff like that. So I just don't want them to go back into storage. I hate to be like harping on this, but it just has like kind of driven me crazy that these things are just been sitting around. And I do think it would be good. I know we proposed this many years ago that we would have a page on our website that would show what proper bike racks look like, what a good bike rack is, what kind of bike rack cyclists like to use, how to apply for one, and it's that's just never happened. So I do think if you do want people to tell you that they want a bike rack, it really does have to be like in a specific area, in a specific space, and in a specific ask. I don't think people are just going to randomly like email, hey, I had an idea. I mean, I've been wanting new bike parking at Walmart for years. That bike parking is terrible. And it honestly, Cynthia, it never occurred to me till you just mentioned it now that a lot of people work there who bike. I just couldn't figure out why people would always throw their bikes at the front doors, and until I rode my bike there and realized there was no bike parking. That was intelligent. It was terrible.
Schnucks parking isn't so great either.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, and also just the bike walk infrastructure to get to and from Schnucks is horrendous. So there's that as well. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, Schnucks also, I like how on their handicap ramp they put flowers and stuff. I'm sure people in wheelchairs love that. Anyway, so I'm not sure if there's anything else we should do on this subject. Does anyone at BPAC, should we just ask Shannon, like a year from now, like did the racks get installed? Like, how do we feel about this? Do we need any follow-up, or just keep moving? Yes,
Cynthia?
Yeah, I think we need to have also the bike parking guidelines are posted on the city's website, but we need to update what it says there, because it also says under bike parking rules that, for example, public works personnel or the animal control officer is responsible for affixing a sticker on the bike spoke asking the owner to move the bike if it's parked improperly. And it goes on from there. And so obviously that has changed. The animal control officer is mentioned several times in the language on the website. So
does it talk about abandoned bikes, Cynthia? Is there anything, because we should
no,
get those
it's not
bikes
about,
removed.
it's actually about bikes that are parked illegally.
An abandoned bike is parked illegally.
Not necessarily. There's a abandoned bike chained up to in the bike rack in front of Common Ground that's been there for 2 years.
That's gotta go. I mean, do we have a system of getting rid of those?
Well, I don't know. I've reported it, but it says you're not allowed to attach your bike to a tree, a parking meter, a light pole. Of course, I've used all of those things a number of times when there's no bike parking. It has a whole bunch of other things that you can't lock your bike to, and that the city can come out and put a little thing on sticker on it telling you have to move your bike or they'll come and take it away, impound it. And obviously, I don't think that process is working quite that way, and it certainly needs to be updated.
Okay, we can add that to our list of website updates. Okay, well, thanks, Annie. I did look at some of the links that you guys found, that you and Cynthia found, and I think those are good to look at and keep in mind. You know, maybe when we talk about it again after to see what's taken by the equity and quality of life projects, maybe when things return to more normal, we can talk about maybe some kind of shared, either install racks at businesses that didn't have them and existed before the requirement, or offer some kind of cost share or something. I think it would be a good program.
Yeah, and I mean, I've for a long time have really wanted Urbana specific bike racks. So, you're in the city of Urbana, and I have a design that's very simple. It's just, it's a simple, easy thing.
Yeah,
really,
I think you
feels
talked
good.
about too, how there can be a placemaking thing, like for a business district or something too. So, also the other place to talk about this is with the Reimagining Urbana, the current, I think it's still ongoing, comprehensive plan. If anybody, hopefully most of us have at least done the initial survey, I think you can also create a login and go in and keep offering suggestions and things like that. So that would be something for us to do individually too.
Yeah.
Maybe when that discussion starts, we could be part of that discussion too.
Cool. Thank you, Bill. Yep, all good.
Okay, thank you. So next, I think, is my annual report update. Let me share my screen. Do you see that? Okay. I also did have a picture of a bike rack at CVS I forgot to show.
I love that picture. That's it right there.
That's one of those outdated bike racks that we were talking about. Yeah.
It was outdated when they installed it, Bill.
Okay, so I think, so what I was trying to go for this year with our annual report is a more logical way to do some recommendations. We usually do like list the motions that were made. So I've started making a list of things that some of them were motions and some of them weren't. They were kind of discussion items that we had some consensus on. So I'd like to at least introduce this now, send it out, get some feedback on it, and then bring it back and actually vote on it in December so that we can put it in the annual report that's presented in probably February or March. So I'll just go through the list. I thought I'd just have like recommendation, then a few, 2 or 3 points, bullet points, so that it doesn't get too long that people read it. So this one was increase annual budget for sidewalks and path maintenance to at least 50% of the annual cost identified in CIP. So in the current CIP, it identified that just for maintenance of sidewalks, we should be budgeting $500,000 a year. Currently, we're budgeting $120,000, so we should try to start bumping that up. And that doesn't include replacement costs or new sidewalks. That's another $500,000 a year. So this we had talked about a little bit before when Shannon presented the capital improvement plan. So then I had some justifications. City code specifies, and this we could leave out. We could almost put that in each recommendation, pick out the part of the BPAC duties that applies. Is that big enough, or should I share just that one window? Okay. In case you guys didn't notice, Jeff's sitting on the opposite side of the room. He's talking. Okay, and is there a way to like stretch this or there? Okay. So yeah, so I could list which part of our BPAC, duties makes us allows us to make that recommendation for each one or not. But then current sidewalk maintenance mostly responds to complaints, and that's not very equitable. So just some things like that. And then a lot of these I don't have justifications for yet, but just evaluate crosswalk visibility and usage at Washington and Race. Consider use of a triangular crosswalk as illustrated in IDOT training materials. We've already submitted that, but just to document that. Secure the assistance of an intern to review the status of bicycle master plan, report to commission. We're making progress on that. Make implementation of Vision Zero a council goal. By the way, council goals, they're going to be discussing them the first week in December. I think in a couple or one special meeting that's continued or something that should be coming up. So we'll need to make sure that they're aware of our recommendation on that. Expand sidewalk snow removal district. We made that recommendation. I talked to Diane and Carol a little bit about it. It's too late this year, but maybe next time. Recommendation to identify projects that require intergovernmental cooperation. So this was something that we kind of touched on earlier in the equity and quality of life projects, that they don't include projects that cross jurisdictions because by definition, they want it to be something that's easily accomplished without purchasing or cooperating with other jurisdictions on right of way. We have to own all the right of way. So this we had talked about a little bit at one of the meetings. So that's something, we can talk about more next time, or if you guys have ideas that you want to send me on that for either changing it or adding more justification. I think we could work on that one some. Implement, this was actually a motion, implement short and long-term solutions for the East Main Street corridor, including speed limit reduction, additional signage, street lighting, recommending alternative 2 for KRT connectivity, and sidewalk on the north side of Main Street and safe crossing for bus stops. So that was a motion that we approved. Continue providing outdoor dining options on Main Street, we've talked about several times, and increase staff support for BPAC. So those are the things that I still need. If I send this out, you can send me some justifications for them. Does anybody see anything offhand that they want to add to this that you think we've talked about this year? Or I'm pretty sure I got all the ones we made motions on, but if there's anything else that you think there was strong consensus on that you want to add to the recommendation, we could add it and then talk about it in more detail next week or next month. Jeff, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I don't have the bike plan in front of me, but I thought it had some language in it about increased quality of bike parking. I'm wondering if, given the fact that we just talked about the bike parking, we could request that there are increased or more strengthen the language in the zoning ordinance to require higher quality or better quality bike parking as part of a redevelopment of a commercial project.
That's a good one. So specifically for redevelopment projects, require them to meet the code.
Yeah, and it sounds like, for new commercial development, we're getting it just fine, but if there's existing bike parking that doesn't meet our current standard, or we need to flush out better standards like the location in proximity to the front door, or sheltered bike parking or whatever it is, if we can ask city council to incorporate that into the work plan of staff as part of a council goal or something. I mean, it is a implementation strategy of the bike plan, so it's not that far of a stretch to say we've already adopted that, as a goal.
Okay, sounds good. Annie?
I was just gonna say, I like the simplicity of this. I like the forthrightness of it. I like that you're just like, here are our recommendations. My ego would like it to say like, here's all the stuff we talked about, like, here's a bunch of stuff that we did. But I really like that what we're sending to council is like, just here are our recommendations, and we would, I just want to say, I don't know. That's all I was gonna say. I like the forthrightness of this.
I wasn't planning for this to be the only part of the annual report, although it probably would be a major part. Because we do usually include other things that we've talked about and include pictures about, some of the bike rides and things that other people in the community have sponsored that we've co-sponsored or participated in. And I think there may be still some things like that. I haven't really started thinking about it in detail yet, but I did want to kind of emphasize the recommendations because I do think we've made quite a few good recommendations this year. Any others? I can't see everybody when I'm sharing my screen. I don't see any other hands, so just speak up if there's anybody else. Oh, Kara?
I was just wondering if the order of these is like chronological throughout the year, or if we wanted to put like things that we discuss very frequently or that have a bigger impact first as sort of top 3 priorities.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I wasn't sure what kind of order to put it in. What do you think?
I think that the first one is most likely to be read, so it should be something that we're passionate about, but they're all important.
So I know what some people are most passionate about. I know that a couple people are very passionate about Vision Zero, but I don't have a sense that everyone is as passionate. So
Jeff, can you mute I'm getting feedback.
Oh.
Just want you. Thank you.
Okay. How about now?
Well, we could send you our thoughts about that, Bill. What is your timeline? When do you want us to have that to you by?
Well, I think we'll need to vote on this this year. So next month, I suppose if we have to, we could vote on it in January, but I'd prefer voting on it in the year that we made the recommendations.
So you need them like by December 1st or something?
Yeah, or at least by the next meeting. But yeah, how about December 1st, and then I'll put it together so that we can vote on it and maybe even get it out on the web with our meeting materials.
I have a question. Are these things we voted on or just things we talked about? Because I think there needs to be a distinction, because I don't remember us voting on that crosswalk that's went to traffic commission and haven't evaluated yet.
Right, we didn't vote on that one. There's a lot in here that we didn't vote on. That's why I wanted to make sure we could vote on it.
Well, I don't think we should vote on them en masse. That doesn't seem appropriate. Like traffic commission is a binding commission, so like if for that crosswalk, it has to go under engineering study. Like you can't just recommend that to city council.
Well, our recommendation is to evaluate crosswalk visibility and usage at Washington and Race and consider use of a triangular crosswalk as illustrated in IDOT training materials.
Right, and it's already under review by traffic commission, which has to go to first.
Well, I would say evaluate and consider, refer to traffic commission.
Are we just saying like we're just saying these are recommendations we made, correct?
Yeah.
We're not, that's all we're
Yeah,
saying.
everything
All
is
you're-
non-binding that comes from us. We don't have any authority.
Yeah, so this is just like high level, high points. Here's what we recommended this year.
And
Boom.
it's actually a requirement according to city code that we make recommendations. So, but if you want, we could vote on these individually next month. We could pick them one at a time and vote yes or no.
Well, I would propose that we vote, I can make a motion today to give you direction to continue to flesh these out and then give BPAC an opportunity to respond and add any justification if needed. But I would propose if there's one that somebody doesn't like, we can vote to pull that one out and then vote the rest in mass.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to do it. Propose them in mass, and then if anybody wants to separate one out or two or whatever, or if you want to separate them out by ones that we voted on, ones that we didn't, and treat the ones that we didn't a little bit more with more discussion, we could do that.
Bill, may I ask a question for clarification?
Sure.
So some, like has been mentioned, some of these have not been voted on. I'm not saying that you wouldn't approve them, but we should have them on the agenda before. They should be public is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
If you vote on and they should be on an agenda that they are going to be discussed and voted on, as opposed to, and if you want to do them all, you know, that's up to you, but I just need to know before.
No, yeah, that's a good point. That's why I wanted to make sure we should vote on them next month. And so, and because of that, we should actually get this out with the meeting materials so that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we have it publicly noticed before we have, yeah.
Do you think it would be sufficient though to have the agenda item approve recommendations for 2021 along with this material that lists the recommendations, or would we on the agenda have to list each one separately?
I think that you should have them listed just so that it's public.
Okay.
I'm not saying that you can't do them, you know, if somebody says they want to do all of them, that they couldn't do that, but I think you should at least have it so that it's publicly listed.
Okay, that's a good idea, at least for the ones we hadn't voted on.
Yeah. And
Okay.
if you want, I can look through and see if I can find a record of which ones you have and haven't voted on.
Okay, I mean, I think I know, I can make a first stab at it if you want, and I can send it to you.
Okay.
But
And then we'll
that's a
just.
good idea.
I mean, because it wouldn't take that long. Because
Yeah.
they've already discussed. It's just that we should probably have, if you're going to say that it was approved by BPAC, it probably should be.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's a good idea. So, yeah, so we could list them individually on the agenda, and then at the time we take them up, we can decide to vote on them in omnibus fashion and put them all together. Or we can, if we're in person, we could just say aye, but since we have to call roll for each one, it might be better to put them in omnibus fashion. Anyway, thanks. That's a good way to figure it out, and we'll be sure to get it on the agenda. So any questions on that? If I send this out to you tomorrow, just try to get feedback to me before the 1st.
And some of these have already been recommended in other plans, but some of them have not. Like plan already calls for the net zero, the Vision Zero goal. So that one's already been approved by City Council.
Yes, and the updated review of the plan every 5 years is also in the bike plan.
But the stuff about the CIP budget stuff, that has not been approved previously by some other plan. So back to Kara's point, if we're going to prioritize these, we could make a distinction between stuff that's already been approved in other plans and it's just an implementation strategy. and then stuff that's brand new recommendations as part of ongoing BPAC initiatives.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think, and then the council goal, it's a new council, and they're talking about new goals in December. So it was a council goal, 4 years ago, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a council goal next year. So I think that recommendation is still valid. Okay.
Which recommendation, Bill? I'm sorry.
To make implementation of Vision Zero a council goal, the one we just voted on last week, I think, or last month. It's already been passed by council, but it hasn't been prioritized as a goal.
Right. Maybe a little bit off topic, but they have made a huge goal of something that's rather related, which is a community safety review through the lens of racial equity and social justice for the city of Urbana, Illinois, which they've carved out $187,000 from the police budget in order to conduct this safety review. And I would imagine that traffic and police stops will be a part of that, which then leads right into Vision Zero. So, and I can tell you just quickly what they've put as their purpose is they're searching for an organization to conduct a review of community safety using a highly participatory approach to reimagining public safety that uses methodologies that focus on racial equity and social justice. The purpose of the review is to assess the current situation and make recommendations of meaningful long-term ways to increase community safety and well-being that are well-informed and tailored to the specific needs. The ultimate goal is to have information to assess the community needs and address them effectively to increase community safety and decrease violence. However, I feel pretty sure that traffic is going to be part of that. I don't see how they're going to be talking with police, reviewing police practices without involving traffic. As our public input just mentioned, there's apparently quite a few changes in terms of how enforcement is being done. So I anticipate that Vision Zero would be part of that. I mean, Vision Zero is completely about well-being and safety.
I think we're getting into future agenda items. Is that what's next on our agenda?
I was referencing it with respect to the council goals. I know there to be a council goal. I presume it is because they are currently working on the RFP for this $187,000 contract. And this is being actually directly led by council members, which is a little bit unusual too.
Yeah, they're just putting out, or they're just coming up with the scoping for the RFP. So it may be a while, but that's a good point that Vision Zero might play into that.
I would really think so. I mean, we have got to.
Oh yeah, traffic violence, people using vehicles in aggressive manners and so forth. We just heard about it. We talk about it every meeting, and then we just had public input tonight about someone talking about even if you drive the speed limit, people drive around you. So traffic violence is an issue. People are dying because of it, and people are getting injured because of it. So it's absolutely a public safety issue.
It's huge, and it's very, very connected. If anybody read the statement put out by the Berkeley council member, he connected in several places traffic and gun violence and the effect on communities. So I can personally start working on lobbying with the council, because obviously we thought that they were going to be doing these goals in the spring, and it suddenly jumped up to December. in the very near future, but it just seems to me like we need to look at how we're going to be told, you know, in January that, sorry, you didn't make it on the council goals. Because we thought it was going to be in the spring.
Yeah. Okay, I think we'll have to kind of just stay tuned on that one. I know when the county did their similar study 10 years ago, the ILPP, something like that, the guy that was in charge of the study did go to a lot of the community groups and stakeholders, and surely we would be a stakeholder and have an opportunity to have input on the re-envisioning assessment. But that's an excellent point to make sure that we're part of that. Okay, I actually lost my agenda. Anybody tell me what's next?
Well, Bill, were you just going to put those recommendations on the agenda for next month, or did you want us to vote on whether to move forward with that, or do we not need to?
Yeah, it never hurts to vote. If you want to direct me to put it on the agenda for next month.
Sure, I'll just make a motion that move forward with working towards putting those recommendations as shown with input and justification from the BPAC within the next week on next month's agenda.
Jeff?
Yes.
What I'm saying is, according to the Open Meetings Act, it has to be on the agenda in order for you to take action on it. We can't add it to the agenda. It has to be on the agenda. That's why I was saying that we wait until next month. Does that make sense? The Open Meetings Act, so it's transparent. So people don't, say, well, I didn't come to this meeting because I didn't think you were going to discuss it or vote on it until next month. I don't think you have to, you don't have to pass something to put it on the agenda next month. But it does have to be on the agenda in order for the commission to take a vote.
Yeah, to take final action, it needs to be on the agenda. And it is on the agenda as annual report, but that might not be specific enough. So that's fine. I'll just take your direction and.
I can retract my motion.
Okay.
If that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think you can do that because there was never a second anyway. Okay.
Announcements are next on the agenda, Bill.
Okay, anyone have announcements?
I do.
Cynthia.
So we have a post-turkey roll on November 28th. Before that, we have a turkey trot, I know, Thanksgiving morning. That is a very popular event. If you haven't been, it's a barrel of fun. You should go. And but they get a lot of advertising out. I don't think they'll have a problem with attendance for their event. But I did want to let people know about the ride that I have. I've been trying to do these every month, so help people find ways that they can bike to businesses and locations in Urbana. And so for this ride, we're going to start at the Arboretum and we're going to stop by Cafe Paradiso. They are super easy rides. We have kids on them, so they're very slow and they're just for fun. This ride is about a little over 6 miles and it's all posted on Facebook. So come and join the fun. The weather forecast looks good for now.
Okay. Sarthak.
I just wanted to let you all know that the walkability audit that we are doing is currently underway. We are collecting data. Hopefully by the fall break, we will have collected data for all of the campus. If not, then I'll let students or volunteers know that they can collect whenever they want. But if it gets too cold, they can still do it in the spring semester. So yeah, that was just my announcement for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I can talk more about it like once we have done the analysis and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be a good presentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Annie.
Well, clearly the thing I was going to show you is under wraps at the moment. But there is, Urbana has its first Wunderhof, or a street that has parked cars, bike lanes through it, spaces for pedestrians walks, and places for people to sit. And that would be under the new Smart Bridge on campus at Civil and Environmental Engineering. I saw a beautiful map today. They showed the new Smart Bridge, and then they had these little orange vibrating dots on it. And I made a joke in the meeting. I said, does that vibrating dot there represent bike lanes? And then they poked on it and it said Woofhof, or whatever, the Wunderhof, the German word for this type of slow shared street. And so it's very exciting. I'm hopefully coming to our downtown soon. So I'll share that hopefully next time. I can actually just show you a picture of what it looks like. But if you haven't biked through that section, it was shut down for quite a long time. You couldn't bike through there, but now you can bike through there, and there's these bike lanes, and it's just really delightful. So that was my big news, that we actually have one in Urbana, but I can't show you the picture, so it's pretty much 50% of an announcement. So
yeah, it's a wonderful, and actually the company I used to work for before coming to the city was part of that design project. So my crowning glory on that was I did the sanitary sewer that's underneath of it. So fun and exciting.
Well, it's great, Shannon. I can't tell you how good it feels to bike through there. As a person who has biked through there before, snuck through it while there was construction, and now it's great, absolutely fantastic. So thank you for what little bit you did. It's not going to flood now because of what you did. So thank you.
Thanks. Audrey?
I'm not sure this is an announcement. I was just trying to remember what our motion last time, and it's in the minutes here, what the motion was that we made last time on Vision Zero. We made a motion to bring it to the council, I believe. So I'm just commenting that should we feel like moving forward on that, I believe we already have a vote.
Yeah, that one we did vote on.
Okay.
The
It
council's
doesn't
been
mean
having,
we have to, but if we are prepared to, I think we are allowed to anyway.
We've been having 4-hour meetings every week.
Right, and I'm well aware that this is probably, they're facing some very controversial things.
We may have to just do it as public input in December for their goals.
Yeah, I would just recommend that we do something, because I remember very clearly Craig mentioning that we weren't listed as a goal, even though we are in the bike master plan and the pedestrian master plan.
Yeah, and the goals will be all new, so. Okay. I think that's it. Is there something else on the agenda? Nope, that's it. Okay. Thanks everyone for coming.
Wait, future topics.
Oh, future topics. Okay, future topics.
Yes, we did have future topics, but we'd already really given you quite a list during the meeting.
Yeah.
But I just want to confirm that Bill got them, because he seems to be in the same state of exhaustion that I'm in. So
Let's see. Okay, so slow traffic calming on Washington. What else?
Bike parking.
Bike parking.
We wanted to know what's happening with the bike racks, and also I think we need clarification on what the current requirements are for, as Jeff talked about, renovation or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Kat talked about that a little bit. It sounds like it's kind of informal, but we could consider trying to get more clarification on that. And then the bike registration slash abandoned bikes issue.
Yes. And then also all the recommendations that you just showed us. So that might be too much stuff, but there's the stuff.
That's too much for one meeting, but some of that we can make a separate meeting. I mean, in January or February. Recommend. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. This
Thank you,
meeting's
everyone.
adjourned.
Good night.
Thank you.